It's the Crack House Podcast with Mike and Muskie.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It is time for the Crack House Podcast. My name's Michael Sullivan. What is going on, people? Freestyle all night long.
House music all night long. Say what? We got a special guest tonight, and I figured we'd kick off the episode with a little old school freestyle that used to rock Ditmars Boulevard and the Strip back in the late '80s and early '90s. Our guest brought it up on Facebook. I figured I kick it off with a little "Spring Love" by Stevie B. Me and Mike were the furthest thing from Guido's, but that music at that point in our lives was all over the place. Remember that stuff, Mike?
Oh my God, man! Never. You went down, like you could go down to the Strip at Astoria Park. Every car was playing the same song, just like that. Like you would just go by every car.
So in the late '80s, early '90s, that stuff ran rampant. I would probably say from like '84 to like probably early '90s until the grunge started. But like Mike said, if you walked up Ditmars Boulevard on a nice spring day like today, that music was rocking.
Forget it.
You know?
Every Monte Carlo SS was out. Grand National. Every Oldsmobile that looked like a Monte Carlo was driving around blasting music. Remember the thing from the mirror, the big bow? Every guy had the bow.
The bow, right.
Every Italian guy had the red, white, and green bow.
Hey, whoa, Maria.
Let's go to Franny Lou. Let's go Franny Lou later.
And the funny thing was, growing up Italian and, Mike's Maltese and stuff, we were the furthest things from those guys, yet we kind of, at least I did. I bounced between different groups of people. I had Mike, obviously, and, the group from the Mac. And then when we got to high school, it was more the McClancy crowd. But I guess it really got more pronounced once we got to McClancy, Mike. Remember? I mean, those guys were like, from Howard Beach and different areas of Queens. And it was like,
oh, yeah, you had those like Howard Beach, Ozone Park dudes.
Those kids were like on, what we experienced in the story, it was like on steroids, man. It was like the Howard Beach.
Well, you know what it was? To me, it was like the way we had like Greek people in Astoria where it's like everyone was speaking Greek and Greek storefront and thing like that. That was like the Howard Beach crew, except it was just Italians.
Right.
Like guys were like kissing each other on the cheek in school and shit, like old school. 15-year-old kids are running around with pinky rings on. It was a goof, man.
I got really drunk in a bar in Gantry's years ago, and this guy is a big steroid guy. I was good friends with him, but I got drunk and I kissed him on the cheek as in a drunken stupor, like as an Italian sign of endearment. And the guy looked at me, like I was, kind of going the other way. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That doesn't fly, in St. John's. But no, it was good times, man. Brings me back. I brought it up because our guest brought it up on Facebook. He's a couple years older than us. He launched a huge website, which we'll go into. A certain portion, a group on Facebook that we're members of, and I'm sure some of the audience, is probably part of too. So he's a pretty interesting guy. He's a fraternity brother from our friend Macho, Chris Macho, a little bit older than Macho, and Patty St. Pat, and all our guys from the Mac will probably recognize the name in the face when you see him. But on to different things, Mike. Some doings in your backyard this week, man, in Forest Hills.
Yeah, crazy shit, man. That 50-year-old lady got murdered by the handyman.
She's our age, man. 51 years old, Russian woman, or Solo Gal, I think. Gaal, I think the last name was.
Yeah. Our kids actually went to school together, I found out.
Really?
Yeah, I think one of them was in one of my kids' grades.
Just an insane story, man. The story goes, they find her dead and with 60 stab wounds in Forest Hills in a duffel bag, and I guess the kid's hockey duffel bag. The father, her husband, I guess, is away looking for colleges with the older kid. The younger kid, I guess, I don't know where he was when all this happened, but apparently she went to a bar. I guess was waiting for somebody, came back home, and I guess there was no sign of broken entry. Gets stabbed 60 times. The cops find her. It turns out, like, the lead suspect is the handyman. She leaves a note on the refrigerator saying, time to find a new handyman. The guy turns himself in nonchalantly. He's eating like a bagel and, cream cheese. And he's nonchalantly, confessing to, like, basically first degree murder, right? I mean, it's just a pretty insane story. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's really, really crazy, man. Like, cause I know there was a lot of people, they were throwing like the kids' names around. They thought the 13-year-old son did it at one point.
Right. They brought him in for questioning,
They
right?
took him out of the house in handcuffs. I mean, the story's got, let's face it, it's going to be a Lifetime movie, probably in another 6 months, or, it's going to be one of those Learning Channel documentary shows or a Netflix show. They're really going to get into this. It seems like she was with this guy. She broke it off. He freaked out. Crime of passion, obviously.
Right.
Went in the house and then 60 times, man. Just God, just crazy. And then just drags her body at like 4:30 in the morning, a couple of blocks away over the Forest Park, and then just dumps the body there.
Well, I read a couple police reports. Well, not the police reports, but their takings. One guy, I guess he was a detective, and he's like, "This has got to be the worst cover up I've seen in my entire 20-year career on NYPD." He goes, "This guy did such a poor job of trying to dispose of this body. It's like he was almost, he wanted to get caught. I mean, it was just bad."
I think there was like a blood trail basically
from the house to the park.
Yeah, from the house to the park, or vice versa, whatever you want to call it, because they just followed it back.
Right.
I mean, we've talked about this on the show before about like, oh, do you think you could ever get away with murder? For the most part, no.
No, not in this day and age.
I mean, because this guy got captured on ring cameras walking down the block.
No way, man.
A $50 or $75 ring camera is going to put this guy away for probably the rest of his life in jail.
I think the only shot, and again, this is watching maybe too many mob movies, I think you'd probably have to cut the body up and make it disappear like the old timers did, and even then I think.
Yeah, but it's another thing too. All right, you chop a guy up in your basement.
You gotta burn it, right? I mean,
but it's not even that. Yeah. And then like a crime scene unit comes in and they find like
your DNA. Yeah.
And they find 2 specks of the guy's blood on the floor. And it's like,
right.
That's it, man. You killed him. So
I mean, I think you'd really have to be slick. I think you'd have to like wear gloves like Mark Wahlberg at the end of The Departed, that kind of stuff, make sure that your DNA is not there. A guy like me probably doesn't have to worry so much about the hair and stuff, but even then,
it's such a crap. The thing I always say, man, like we've talked about it, you're on video everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You have a phone with you everywhere you go. It's like you have to, the car you're in has a computer in it with a GPS system, I'm sure.
Right.
Like wherever you go, you're tracked. So it's really wild. I don't know how you can get away with it really in this day and age, because it just seems so many.
You'd have to really be slick, man.
The only thing that works so far, and even those guys keep getting caught, is like these dudes that take their girlfriends to national parks and kill them. That's it.
Like the kid over the last summer. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that kid had a pretty decent shot at skating. I mean, I think eventually if they caught up with him, the hammer would have come down on him, but he basically tossed her off a cliff or whatever he did. He choked her and whatever he did, and got rid of the body or whatever the hell he did. But it took them months to kind of figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually they did, but just a wacky story. 51 years old. She's our age. I guess this guy's an illegal alien or immigrant. I mean, again,
I just saw another article that said it came out. He was in the country illegally and
whatever the deal was. Not that makes a huge matter in the grand scheme of things, but apparently, they'd been together for a while. She broke it off, like you said, crime of passion, and just a sad story, man. Sad story. 51 years old. I mean, we're that age, in that ballpark. You got kids. She's got 2 of them, a 17 and a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And then I think the guy made a comment, I guess to the husband saying like, you guys are next. Like, so that's where I think that guy is a little off his rocker. It's like, okay, I get the crime of passion type thing. Okay, I understand that. But then apparently he sent a text to the husband saying like, you and your family are next. I'm going to wipe you all out. So
yeah, there was, because that's what people were thinking, that it might have been like the kid or the husband did it, because it seemed like a very sloppy thing to do. Like
Right.
it's not like this guy did it like out of a movie. Like, I just killed your wife. Now I'm going to text you, you're next, buddy. Like, I'm going to get you. I didn't get that, man.
No, I didn't either, man. It was very, very, very strange. And like I said, for a guy, crime of passion. I mean, I look in the. I guess you're really not thinking clearly, right? But on the flip side, for the cop to make a comment like that, saying it's the sloppiest cover up he's ever seen, I don't know, man. Maybe the guy's mentally ill. I mean, obviously there's something off with him, but on to another domestic violence case. What do you think of this Johnny Depp thing that's been going on the last couple of days?
My man, the Deppster, he's treating the whole thing like a movie, man. He's so funny to listen to.
I've caught a little bit of it. He is pretty funny, right?
He's a funny dude, man. Like,
dude, have you seen some of these pictures though?
I guess that's one way you could look at it. I mean, yes. Well, what was the thing he texted the one girl to come over for like a glass of wine, and he said, "Would you like to come over for a spot of purple?" What a weird dude. He's a very weird, odd guy. He's one of those creepy old famous guys. He's bored. You could tell he's just a guy that's like, he's very bored right now. He hooks up with this chick. How old is she, Amber Heard? She's something like,
she's about 20 years younger than him.
Yeah.
She's like in mid-30s.
And you know what it was, man? She realized real quick, she hooks up with this guy and her career starts to, move up a little. She already had a decent career, but her career starts to take off with this guy. Johnny Depp's definitely going to open some doors for her. But I think too, she realizes like, this guy is just a boring old man. Like, he's a little annoying too. I guess he's like set in his ways or whatever. She's had enough of like his garbage. And so now they just keep like it's like one of those like bad relationships where they just keep prodding each other till one finally snaps. I mean, you saw the video where he grabs her. Like, did you watch that one video? He's pouring it like, "I'll show you crazy, baby." And he's like pouring a glass of wine, and then he like grabs her, and the camera goes all over the place.
Yeah, but you know what? It's on both ends too, Mike. Like, I saw that video, but I also saw something where I think she cut his tip of his finger off. I mean,
oh yeah, she cut his finger off. She took a dump in their bed.
Dude, she's a little wacky too, man. Like, I mean, listen, I get that he's a weird old dude and kind of washed up, and he's been a weird dude for the last 20, 25 years. To be honest with you, he started to go a little strange, kind of like Tom Cruise after the couch incident, in my opinion, after that Edward Scissorhand movie. After that Edward Scissorhand movie.
25, that's probably 30 years ago.
It's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he went down like Tim Burton loves him, put him in a few movies, but he's got like that creepy kind of like old guy vibe, like he loves being a rock and roll guy. He doesn't like being an actor. He's in, I think, a band.
He is.
He's in a band. I think he likes the rock and roll lifestyle way more than he likes Hollywood. But the thing that's killing him right now is, one, he totally mismanaged all his money. He was another guy, I think, that had like $100 million empire, and he's broke.
Yeah. No, he did some stupid shit with his money. There's no question about it.
He did dumb shit with his money. And now, because he's going through this whole thing, and he's technically trying to uncancel himself from Hollywood, because the domestic violence allegations that are against him have canceled him. He lost a spot in that, what are those movies he was in? Those
Pirates of the Caribbean?
The Pirates of the Caribbean, they stopped making, or they're going to reboot it with someone else. And then he was in like those Harry Potter spin-off movies, Fantastic Beasts. He was in those. They recast it. So like, he's probably lost out on,
well, that's what he's suing for. He's
tens of millions of dollars.
He's suing for
$50 million. You know, she doesn't have $50 million.
No way.
He just wants to get his name cleared so he can go back and make movies. That's it.
Listen, I kind of buy him, Mike. I mean, I get the whole creepy old dude thing, but here's the deal. He's been a weird guy for like I said, 30 years. His Scissorhands came about. He went through a lull in his career, but at one point he was the young hot dude, in Hollywood. He's 21 Jump Street before the movie and stuff.
Oh yeah.
He had a ton of TV stuff that he did.
No, he's made a whole bunch of great movies.
Right, right.
But like, yeah, he's at the point now. He's on the other side of 50. He's pushing 60. He's like 58 years old. He just wants to go out with a few more big ones, I guess. This way he's got money for the rest of his life. Because
she is no bargain at all. I mean,
listen, no.
I think
because here's the thing too, Chris, from what it seems like, there aren't other women really coming out of the woodwork saying what a piece of shit Johnny Depp is.
That's right.
Because I think that would have happened already.
That's correct. And she's all over the place. She went from I think she was previously married, and she hooked up with this guy, with Depp. Then they broke up. Then apparently, I guess she turned bisexual or lesbian or whatever she is. And then I think she was going to marry a woman, and now she's kind of back to being a straight woman. She's a little... again, I'm not saying anything's wrong with any of that stuff. I don't want to be canceled here, but she's kind of all over the place too. And in terms of like some of the stuff that I saw in those videos, dude, for every tick and tack that she got beat up. I mean, listen, I'm not advocating that either, but there's some heinous shit like you said, shitting in the guy's bed, chopping his finger off, defaming him, and like you said, I think he's got a case here. In terms of defamation. He's.
Defecation.
Kind of like in the toilet right now. Right?
She made a grumpy in the bed. He called it a grumpy. She made a grumpy in the bed. Just a weird.
He is a wacky dude, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw.
He's approaching it though like a movie, like he's playing it like he's on, and he's just. Yes, I guess that's one way of approaching this. One way.
You know what the problem is? I think he thinks he's Keith Richards now. Like you said, he's into the rock and roll, stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of mirrored that Pirates of the Caribbean role after Keith Richards, and then obviously Richards made the appearance.
Yeah, he just ripped him. I mean, I don't know why he doesn't get more flack for that. That he just like ripped off a Keith Richards impersonation and probably made over $100 million doing it.
And they brought Keith on.
I watched the first movie and I think that was it.
They're enjoyable, man. They're enjoyable.
I guess they're like fun family kind of, but I just never got into it. My kids really never got into it.
It's a Disney movie,
Oh yeah. It's a family movie and all that. I'm not saying
they're going through their own stuff right now. It looks like that their 50-year exemption and self-governance has gone down the tubes right now. That got, I guess, thrown down the drain by the Florida legislature. So apparently, I wasn't aware that Disney kind of basically self-governs themselves. They basically run the fire, the police department. They're exempt from like taxes.
Yeah, it's like
all sorts of municipal stuff.
City, man.
Wild, man.
But how much money does that? I mean, how much tourism money does it bring in for that state every year?
It's huge, but here's the thing, Mike. It's also huge for Disney because from what I'm reading, it's hundreds of millions of dollars that they're going to have to pay in taxes now. And, obviously they're going to have to pay for the police and the fire departments. And any time that they want to get something done, municipal wise, in terms of like expanding whatever, they got to go through the red tape that they kind of were exempt from for the last 50, 60 years. It's pretty insane, man. But going back to the Caribbean movies, they're very family oriented movies. I enjoyed them. It just seems like he's a pretty wacky guy, like you said. I mean, I saw a Clash documentary about Strummer, and he's a big Clash fan. And even in that, he was very weird. He had the pirate bandana on, and he had that affected voice, and he was saying weird shit. And I was like, all right, it's cool that he's a Clash fan, but he's coming off like he's a little bit of a weirdo too. Then I think he made some comments about I guess Bush Jr. back in the day, and he moved to the south of France, because he didn't like the politics that were going on in the U.S. at the time. So listen, I think it goes both ways, but I'll tell you what, she's no angel, and some of the shit that she did is.
Oh yeah. She's definitely a kook. She was trying to get ahead. I mean, they canceled her. I don't think they want her in the next Aquaman movie.
No, you're right. You're right.
I don't know if they either like cut down her role or completely cut her out of the movie or replacing her. But yeah, it's going to be funny to see what happens. I think it's going to be over soon. So maybe
Did you
within
ever
the
see
next.
a movie, Never Back Down? It was like kind of like a Karate Kid in the early 2000s about this MMA kid who moved to Florida. He kind
I
of gets
heard
bullied.
about it. I never watched it.
It's
I know.
okay, but she's in it.
Yeah,
She plays the girlfriend,
yeah. It's
and
like an MMA karate movie. Yeah, Karate
pretty
Kid.
good. They got the guy from Gladiator, the black dude from Gladiator. He's in it. Um, the guy who was in like one of those California like 9021 ripoffs in the early 2000s. He's in it. You know, he's I forgot the kid's name. He's a good looking kid. He plays all the bad guys. He's like kind of like the modern day Johnny, from Karate Kid. He's actually into martial arts, the kid too, but she's in it. She plays like the main squeeze, the girlfriend and etc. That was the first time I kind of got exposed to her. And then other than that, I don't really know what she's done. I mean,
Yeah, I seen her in Aquaman, and then there was like a
Aquaman,
couple.
right?
She did, I think, like a couple like horror movies where she was the main character. But yeah, like most likely she's probably just going to go away. She's
Mhm.
probably just going to disappear for a while, and that'll be that. I just saw. I don't know if you saw this in the paper. Bill Murray. It
Yeah,
might
what
be.
happened with him?
I don't know. He had some freak out on the set of some movie, and they're bringing up. Supposedly, he's not that nice of a guy. It's like what's coming out, but this is coming basically from one side. I think we all remember his classic "What About Bob?"
Yeah.
During that movie, he supposedly put Richard Dreyfuss through hell. Like, I mean, just fucked with him constantly.
Right.
And they call Richard Dreyfuss has said it in interviews. He was just a complete bully on the set of the movie. And they were talking about one scene. There was something going on where Bill Murray wanted the day off from shooting. And the producer of the movie said, no, you can't have it. We have the schedule. You have to work this day. He freaked out. Richard Dreyfuss kind of was defending the producer. He went after him. They said in the article I read in the paper, they actually had to have bodyguards on the set for both of these guys because they were basically going at it every time they said cut. They were going after each other. So, yeah, with this thing, they said Bill Murray somehow was inappropriate on the set. They're not releasing really any information. It's that guy, the comedian Aziz Ansari. He's directing the movie.
The Indian dude, right?
Yeah, him. Seth Rogen's involved with the movie too. It has nothing to do with those two guys. It's just something that Bill Murray did on the set, and it's being investigated right now. So no one really knows what it actually is.
Yeah, I saw something about that. But again, we talked about it last week. We talked about Steven Seagal being a bully. Remember? Same shit. Where people like were kind of on the set with the guy, and they're like he's a bully and he's taking cheap shots and that kind of thing.
I was watching who was your buddy? Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul.
Oh,
Did you see when he was on Stern? He was on Stern and they asked him worst, and it's kind of ranked, I think, too, as the worst episode in SNL history. And Bob Odenkirk was a writer on the show in the 90s.
Okay.
In the late 80s, he was a comedy writer on the show. And they said, what was the worst episode? And Stern asked him, what was the worst episode? Oh, who was the worst guest host? And he said, Steven Seagal. He said the guy was horrific. He came in, he bullied everyone around. He wanted like every joke to have karate in it, basically.
Right.
And then finally they do. I don't even remember watching it when he hosted it, but they said the last thing he wanted to do was talk about the environment on the show. And the scene is him coming in, beating up a bunch of guys with karate, and then he like looks directly at the camera. He's like, save the rainforest and all this other dopey stuff. Like he's saying all this stuff to the camera. And he said it. He goes, it was the worst thing in the world. And Stern even asked, he goes, how did Lorne Michaels let this happen? He goes, dude, you're 3 days into the week already. You can't find a replacement host. He goes, you just have to ride this out. And he goes, listen, the guy's basically banned. He will never host the show ever again, no matter what he does in his life.
Speaking of wacky shit and people, difficult people, did you see what happened with Mike Tyson on the airplane this week?
Well, that guy, listen, that guy got everything he deserves.
And I agree with you. I mean, we both met
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Tyson, right? You met him, and
I met him once, and I thought he was going to kill me.
He was cool with me. He was cool with me, but I saw the video, and it looks like the guy was like an annoying chihuahua. Like he was constantly in the guy's ear.
Yeah, he's like over the seat. I mean, if anyone, I'm sure everyone has seen the video by now. The guy's like over the seat on top of him like this. He deserved a beating. The guy deserved a beating.
And let me ask you a question. What do you think this guy's thinking? This is Mike Tyson, bro.
The guy's drunk. That's what it is, man. The guy's loaded. And
even then, I mean, you saw the hangover. You saw what he did.
Yeah, but listen, I met Mike Tyson too when I was drunk. I met him in front of the W Hotel in Manhattan like 20 years ago. And even then, it dawned on me like,
don't fuck with this guy.
I shook his hand. I said, "Hey, champ." I think he was fighting Lennox Lewis for the belt. And I was like, "Yeah, bring the belt back to America." And then he just kind of gave me a look of like, "Okay, you said what you wanted to say. Get away from me now."
Scram, right.
As drunk as I was, it kind of kicked in like,
you got the message, right?
If I don't walk away, I'm going to wind up in a coma. I'm going to be picking my teeth up off the ground probably. So I walked away. Crazy thing, and I got to meet Mike Tyson. So,
and the crazy thing was, Mike, he was just on my Joe Rogan's show. Like he was fluid. It was a great interview, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure if you meet Mike Tyson one-on-one, he's probably the nicest guy in the world. If you watch this video, this guy just keeps harassing him. I don't care how they say like, oh, you get famous and you have to give up some of your anonymity and things like that. Mike Tyson's just trying to sit in a chair and this guy's like over his head, like constantly pointing and yelling and talking to him. It's like, dude, what do you want from me? Like, leave me alone. So I mean,
it was pretty wild.
That guy got exactly what he deserved. I mean, he probably woke up or sobered up and was like, "What the hell did I just do?"
Now, I don't know, did Tyson get charged with anything, or did the other guy?
Right now, it seems like no. From what I've been reading, I didn't see anything. I didn't see any headlines that he got charged. And I'm sure he's going to claim self-defense in some way. I mean, the whole thing is videotaped, but
yeah, right.
Hey, man, the guy got in my space. I was scared. I don't know.
I was scared.
I was scared, man. You're Mike Tyson. You have pet tigers. I mean, but I mean, yeah, the guy was just an idiot. The guy that did that, he was just a boob. He deserved it. He deserved a knuckle sandwich from Mike Tyson.
I see a couple more guys, I guess, in the sports world are pissed off at Hollywood. I see Jerry West and Kareem are super pissed off at at winning time. They're pissed off at the depiction of Jerry West, and Kareem's kind of ticked off, like he's saying that they're making him off to be an overly jerk, like he never told the kid to F off, and he says like they're making these guys into like characters of themselves. And
well, I mean, too, you got to remember it's a TV show. You got to sell it.
Yeah.
You can't, I'm sure some of these guys are complete boring boobs that just played basketball and went home.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, here's the thing. Was like Jerry West an alcoholic?
No, what Kareem said was, Jerry West, he says they were making light of Jerry West's upbringing because apparently, he was a product of domestic violence in his house. The father beat the crap out of him. And they're saying like they're making him out to be like this rageaholic. And, the reality of it is they're making him to be a character, and they're kind of ignoring the guy, what happened to the guy to make him like that. Well, they're also going over the top with it.
Yeah, they did a few flashbacks on it from what I remember. I mean, like he grew up in like a poor, was he from like West Virginia, like a poor West Virginia town?
He got the crap beat out of him. The father just beat the living, out of him.
I still don't like, Adrian Brody as Pat Riley.
No, I don't. But you can see it changing a little bit. Like you start to see the hair and stuff. He starts getting more aggressive.
Yeah, he shaved the mustache.
He shaved the mustache off.
But the Kareem thing, that Kareem, that he's just like, I'm better than everyone else thing, I think it's followed him around though for a majority of his career in his life. You know, that he's never had a job in basketball.
No, you're right.
So I think
listen, I agree with you.
And I don't think that's just on him not wanting to work in basketball. I mean, listen, he's a super smart guy. He's very well educated, very well read guy. But I think if someone offered him a job in basketball, he probably would take it. He is one of the top players of all. He's in the top 5 of all time.
So I put it out on Twitter. You know, I was out with my buddy Tony and Pudge this week, and we were talking about it. I would take Magic. I think I mentioned it to you too. I would take Magic, Bird, and Kareem in a heartbeat over LeBron. I'm not a huge basketball fan anymore, but I still follow it. I watch it time to time. And it's not even anything that's biased towards me. I'm not even saying LeBron's not a better overall talent than these guys, but if you put a gun to my head and told me, you know, you have to pick 3 guys to start a basketball team, you know, and you can pick from these 3 and LeBron, maybe 2 other people, I would take these 3 in a heartbeat. Bird, Magic, and Kareem in a heartbeat over LeBron.
The dude playing Larry Bird looks just like him.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the way they made the garden out to be Boston Garden with the leprechaun, you know, laughing and, you know, behind the scenes. There's a lot of crap that they did in Boston.
I read that years ago, like how
they would turn up the heat to sweat their asses out.
They said it's a lot of different sports teams, what they would do. And one of them, like you said, the heat, the showers wouldn't work.
Right.
Like those massage baths they take. Those things wouldn't work.
Like rats running around the locker room, that kind of shit. I mean,
they said there was one. I think this was in football. It might have been Minnesota was known for it. Whenever the opposing team came in, the day of the game, they would hire the maintenance crew would paint the locker room the night before, so they came in and got high off the paint fume smell, and they would be lightheaded.
Some of the stuff that they
like just these little tricks.
I think one of the Super Bowls with the Patriots, I think they apparently I think it was against the Falcons, where they set off the fire alarms in the Falcons hotel the night of before the Super Bowl. Like, you know, they just, you know, somebody ran anonymously and pulled every fire alarm, you know, kind of woke them up in the middle of the night, that kind of crap. But it was pretty cool. We got a friend, I guess Henry, you know, Henry T, you know, from Astoria. He was a big Celtic fan. I remember him running around in the late 80s, you know, rocking the Celtics gear when we were all still rooting for the Knicks, you know, woefully, you know, it's almost 50 years and still no championship.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. You're wearing the Mets hat, and I think they're probably pretty close, but if you had to pick a team between, like, say, for example, the Knicks, the Nets, the Mets, well, I'll lump in the Islanders and the Rangers at this point. Who do you think wins the title first?
Well, the Nets look horrible. They're down 2-0.
Yeah, they're going to get wiped out.
Yeah, they look horrible. The Knicks are just a bad team. The Mets right now, not being biased, but I mean, I can't say it.
That's where my money is.
It's 2 weeks into the season, and they look good, but this is like the Mets MO the last few years, where it's like they have this great pitching, they have decent bats, and they get you to like the first or second week of May, and then there's a 4-week collapse, and then there's a little rise, and then there's another collapse.
Right.
They try this like run at in the first week of August. They try this big run, and it gets them to September, and they always fall short or they get knocked out. So I do think I guess if you're looking at it on paper, the Mets probably are the best one. I'd like to see, you know, you still got the Rangers too, man. The Rangers, you know, you're going back to 94 right now. It's been a while for those guys too.
83 for the Isles, 94 for the Rangers.
Yeah.
My money's on the Mets right now with the ownership. You know, all things aside, you know, maybe I'm a little bit biased being a Yankee fan, but I think they're probably closest. We got our buddy Vinny coming in a couple moments, so we'll get ready for him, our special guest tonight, and you know, we'll get into all things Astoria.
Oh, I saw Batman finally.
What'd you think, Mike?
I thought it sucked. I didn't.
It was okay.
It didn't do much for me.
It's very long. I thought it was. If they had cut it down to like an hour,
like you said, long. I just did. They they didn't keep the characters. Certain characters are in it for like 5 minutes, and then they're gone. What's his face? Colin Farrell is not in the movie that much.
I wasn't a big fan of him.
John Turturro has like 4 quick scenes. Really, he's not in it that much. The guy Peter Sarsgaard plays the DA.
Yeah,
he's in 2 scenes. He's
Yep.
in the movie for a total of like 5 minutes.
A lot of them were. I think that there was a lot of action with the Catwoman. She was obviously a big part of it.
Yeah, I just, she was okay. I mean, to me, the whole movie was just okay. And the rumor is he's gone now. I don't know if it's because of the money that, I mean, I'm sure the movie made money, but supposedly he's stepping away already. This guy, Robert Pattinson. They want to bring back Ben Affleck, who I thought is the better Batman. But yeah, it just didn't appeal to me. Maybe too, I think maybe too, because the guy's he's so young. I'm used to like the Batman being like
older Batman, yeah.
Older. I mean, Michael Keaton was probably in his late 30s, mid to late 30s when he did it. Ben Affleck was in his 40s when he did it. Val Kilmer and George Clooney were in their late 30s or early 40s when they did it.
The crazy thing is, I don't even remember Val Kilmer and Clooney doing Batman.
Val Kilmer, a lot of people say this about the Val Kilmer one. There's a lot of deleted scenes. That movie was supposed to be a hell of a lot better.
Oh, speaking of Val Kilmer, my wife saw a trailer with Maverick, which is coming out next month, and she's a little confused. Like, I'm keep on telling her, like, he's in the IMDb. She's like, the trailer has like Tom Cruise speaking to like a montage of Val Kilmer, where like there's pictures of him, but he's not actually in it. And my wife thinks that Val Kilmer is not actually going to be in the movie. I think they're going to CGI him like Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how they weave him in. You know, obviously he's messed up. We talked about the documentary last year, and you know, obviously you can't have Val Kilmer, the Iceman, you know, in his current situation.
You wanna play some volleyball?
Nah, man.
Come on, Maverick. Let's play volleyball.
No, you can't.
You're dangerous. You know, that kind of shit. You know, that's not happening, man. But yeah, she said,
ice,
man.
Yeah, I don't know what. I guess they could do that like CG. Like, remember Terminator?
Yes.
One of the Terminator movies where they did that with
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. They put his face on some dude's body.
I think it's going to get pretty wacky all of a sudden with people getting de-aged, you know, like living people being de-aged. You know, they did it with Mark Hamill. They did it with Schwarzenegger. You know, obviously I think they're going to do it with this guy. I think that's really the only way it works, you know, if you want, you know, him to, you know, appear and stuff. But
your boy is in the waiting room. I'm going to bring him in.
Let's bring him on in.
Let's bring in our guest. Say hello, everyone.
He is the founder of Growing Up Astoria, Mr. Vinny Serio.
Hello.
How you doing, Vin?
How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I don't know if you, obviously we've spoken from St. John's, Vinny. You remember me. We've had a couple of your fraternity brothers on. But Vinny's a local guy. He's from Astoria. He's probably a couple years older than us. You know, we ran in the same circles. Chris M and Matt and all our buddies, Pat. They all know Vinny. But the interesting fact about Vinny is the founder of a 22,000 member Facebook group called Growing Up Astoria.
Is it up to 22,000?
It's 22,000, Vinny, which is insane. And he's done a really good job, you know, throughout the years. The thing has grown. He's done a great job of moderating, keeping the politics to a minimum there, keeping irate people. He probably gets a ton of complaints. But it's pretty cool because, you know, me and Mike have made this podcast. A lot of stuff that we bring up is Astoria-centric, even though we live in different areas. We still hang on to our youth and everything that we brought on. And I saw your comment on Facebook a couple weeks ago with the freestyle music, which I led off the show with. And I thought it would be great for you to come on and discuss the founding of the site and a little bit of your experiences in Astoria. So I'll leave you to it. I mean, how did it come about?
Well, I'm going to start off with the Growing Up Astoria. Basically, the premise for that was at the time, a girlfriend of mine at the time was messing with Facebook. It was 2008, I had no idea what Facebook was. And so one night I'm watching her on Facebook and I'm asking her, I'm like, what is this Facebook? And she's giving me a brief explanation of what Facebook is. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So I said, would you help me make a page for myself? She says, absolutely. It's very simple. So we did it. So the page was set up. I walked into the next room and all of a sudden it hit me like a bolt of lightning. How many times have I thought about people I grew up with, or thought about people that, you know, that I wondered how they were doing, or thought about people that I haven't seen in so long and who affected me, or who I had fond memories of, or things they did in Astoria. And I don't even know where any of these people are anymore. I have no idea what they're doing, where they are, what's going on. And there's so many people that I could think of that I would love just to see how they're doing, to see some pictures, a few stories, reminisce, maybe stay in touch, maybe rekindle friendships. All those things came to my mind. So basically I walked back in the room and I said to her, can I make like a group of some sort? And she said, absolutely. So she said, what do you have in mind? And I said, people I grew up in Astoria. And I tell you, it's one of those things. I told her that it was for people I grew up in Astoria. And basically, as soon as I said it, right after that came out of my mouth, I'm going to call it Growing Up Astoria. And she said, that's a great name. So we set the page up 2008, I believe in August of 2008. And it took off. It really took off. Within 6 months or so, there was a lot of people on it. And within the first year, I was getting calls for parties, reunion parties, and all kinds of events. And it grew quick and it morphed and it transformed and it changed and it almost like was reinvented. And a couple times I tried to put up a website. There was a couple people that wanted to go into business with me. I decided against a lot of that. I wanted to keep it very humble. I wanted to keep it for the people from Astoria. I didn't want to commercialize it. I didn't want to make it anything, but I did want to have, you know, some get-togethers. And if, you know, somebody like Budweiser or somebody wanted to host it or do something with that, that was okay. But still, I wanted everything to stay in Astoria. I wanted the people to enjoy it, and I didn't want something that people were going to have to pay for. I didn't want it to be something that people were going to have to say to themselves, "Wow, this is cool," but you know, I got to pay $20 to get in, or I got to pay $30, or I got to buy this. So I try to keep it for the people, and I tried to keep it where that people were actually enjoying it. They were getting on there and enjoying it, and finding friends, and it was something that it was one of the better things I've done in my life, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the whole process. So there's been some ups and downs, and there's been some, you know, some very interesting people. I tell you, some interesting people grow up in Astoria. We have them all.
What are some of the challenges that you've run into, you know, with the thing?
Well, the challenges are sometimes it's certain people that don't mesh well with others. And then another big challenge is, you know, whatever's going on in politics, whatever's going on in the news, it reflects on the page. Somebody watches the news all day long and sees something about Biden or Trump or whatever the politics of the day are. And then they come on the page and it may start off innocent, but it gets into an argument. There's been arguments over politics, over love affairs, past, present, arguments that happened 20 years ago that we were rekindled. I had people, you know, contacting me privately that they were being threatened. There was all kinds of things. So what I had to do was I had to sit down and decide what I was going to do with this page going forward, where there weren't going to be as many problems, if I can curtail them. So basically what I decided to do was set up a set of rules. And the rules were going to be in place to try to keep it at a level where everybody's still enjoying each other. And look, I can't expect everybody just to talk about growing up Astoria or Astoria. You know, they're human beings, and this is a free country. You can talk about whatever you want, but keep it, you know, professional, keep it civil, and keep it, you know, and treat each other with respect. So I set up rules, and basically the rules were simple in the beginning. There were no politics and, you know, no trying to sell things and you know, things basic and treating other people with respect and no arguments. And And with that, it kind of grew, and over time, from 2008 to 2022 now, it's still growing. Sometimes we still have, once in a while, I'll still get somebody that will will surprise me with a question or contact me privately. I get vendors all the time that contact me about doing different things, and basically they want to exploit the page. So I try to keep it simple. I don't make any money off this, and I don't want to. It's something that brings me home mentally and physically, not physically, but because I'm not in Astoria right now. I'm living outside of Astoria, but mentally and in my heart, it makes me feel good, and it brings me back, and I go through some of the pages and I see some of the people and what they write, and I see some of the pictures, and I feel good about it. So it's something I'm happy I did. Am I going to win awards for it?
Mhm.
Am I saving lives? No, I'm not. But I'm still trying to do something that brings really good people together. We have
Yeah.
a lot of good people in Astoria.
How, like you said, bringing people together. Is there a lot of people you were able to reconnect with this site?
Me personally.
Yeah, you personally.
Yes, absolutely. It helped me. Well, look, you see these people. I mean, you know who these people are. They're your friends for a long time. You're out of touch with them, and maybe you can be in touch with them. Maybe it's as simple as just calling one other person and having them give you a phone number, or maybe it's they disappeared. Maybe they're in another country or they're. But the point is that this Growing Up Astoria page almost helps you get through that hurdle or that decision making of whether or not you want to go forward and actually contact that person. So it gives you like an oomph. It gives you like the push you need. And sometimes you're just on the page and somebody will contact you or send you a message. But that page gives you like the strength to reach out to people that you may not have reached out to. It gives you kind of like the guts to do it, And I have contacted people and people have contacted me. And all in all, for me, I'm glad I did it. And it turned out to be a great thing. And I've reconnected with, honestly, dozens of people. I mean, if you think about it, I don't know how old you are. I'm 53. From age 15 or 20 in Astoria till my 30s, think about all the different types of relationships you had with different people, different girlfriends, different people, different friends, work friends, home friends, friends on your block, friends, and all the different phases you went through in those 10 or 15 or 20 years. Think about all those people. So I connected with different people from different circles that I haven't seen, from the bowling alley or from Astoria Park or from Ditmars. I used to hang out in front of the Pizza Palace in Ditmars and 31st Street and Ditmars Boulevard. And it just brings you to different circles of friends. So it was a plus for me.
Hey, Vinny, let me ask you a question. You brought it up, and me and Mike talk about it all the time. We all agree that there was a very eclectic group that we grew up with. You had people of all races, creeds, and
Sure.
super interesting characters.
Right.
There's a couple of very famous people from Astoria. I wonder, there's one guy in particular. Me and Mike are close to 50. So we're about 3 or 4 years younger than you are. But there was a guy probably about 2 or 3 years older than I. Maybe he's your age, and I think you may know him. I'm just wondering if he's part of the group. Dito Montiel. Do you remember Dito?
Monty and
Yeah.
Ditto. Okay, well, not only do I know them, but Monty was my baseball coach. I played baseball in ICYP, like a lot of us did, and his dad was my coach for several years. Several years I played for him. And
He's super. I haven't spoken to him directly, but through Twitter, I've reached out to him. He's made a movie. I brought it up maybe about a year or two ago. Me and Mike brought it up. A Guide to Recognizing His Saints.
he's made several movies.
Right.
And also, he's written a few books. I read a few of his books because of the connection, like you have, of knowing him from Astoria, and because of the fact that he became famous. He's a famous guy.
Yeah.
I read the book and I saw the movie, and he actually spoke to me, and he was making another movie in New York City, and he needed props. He needed pictures of kids and So he reached out to me, and he actually sent me a contract. I had to sign a contract, send it back. He took some of my, I don't know what he did with them, if he ever did use them, but he took about a dozen of my pictures from Little League and from me on my block, me hanging out in front of my house, me in front of my car, my first car, meet down in Astoria Park. So he took these pictures, and I think what he was telling me was that he was going to use them as like background in somebody's living room or someone's house. And I don't know if he ever did it, but he made a few movies. And it was actually an honor, and it was a pleasure to talk to him and do that. I haven't really talked to him too much, but I run into him once in a blue moon. And he's always a gentleman, and he's a great guy. And I'm proud of him because he was attempting to make it as a singer, and he kept reinventing himself until he made it. He was a singer. He was in a band. Then he was writing, and then and here he is now making movies. Good for him. And it's a nice thing to know he's from our neighborhood.
Yeah, he actually, I think he directed Robin Williams' last movie that he was in.
Oh, really?
Before he passed away.
He's a talented guy. He's been a talented guy for a long time.
Yeah.
Since he's very young, he's been talented. And his father was, I don't know if you will from the movie, but if you knew his dad, or I knew his dad very well. His dad was an excellent guy. Just one of those guys that, just a character. You don't, one in a million. You don't get guys like that often, men that often like that. He was just a great guy. And with all the things happening, what he was doing, he still found time to coach baseball, Little League Baseball, which was pretty cool, even though his son wasn't on the team. His son was, years before, but his son was already older, and he still coached. He volunteered his time. So, I know Ditto very well, and I knew his dad. Great guy, and his dad was a fantastic man. God rest his soul.
I got to imagine there are some other guys as well. I mean, I have to imagine the Vallone brothers are probably members of GOA.
I played with Paul Vallone on the Astoria Giants, a hockey team. Was a local team in Astoria. I played with him. I went to a MAC with him. His mom was my teacher, and his dad was, at the time when we were growing up, was a city controller. So he would, I would be an altar boy in Immaculate Conception, and he would come in every morning for 8 o'clock mass every morning.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
When I did 7 o'clock mass, when I served 7 o'clock mass, he would be there every morning.
Now that's what mass was. My God, then I was up. I had to be that was a 7 o'clock, because I served that. I was an altar boy for that. When he was coming in. So he was going to 7 o'clock mass.
When I remember when I had to serve 7 o'clock mass in the morning, there'd be 4 people in the church, and he was right every single day.
So for the people out there that are watching this that are non-Catholic, it seems like me, Michael, and Vinny, we're all altar boys at the same parish, which actually was featured in Guido's book, A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints. Actually, I'm not sure if you remember reading it, Vinny, but he singled out Father Angelo. Father Angelo was in that book,
and he was in charge of the altar boys.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And
I don't know if he's still alive, Father.
I think he is.
For some reason, I went on a deep dive for the man. Probably or there was something at my parents' house, like one of those, like church newspapers that the old people still get at their houses, like the tablet or something like that. And his name was in there. I want to say he's retired.
I would hope so.
He's close to 90.
And I want to say he's probably in like his early 80s right now.
Yeah,
mid 80s. But he was the coolest priest there. He was always nice to us. He liked goofing off with the kids. And like
he was another Astoria
character.
Yeah.
He was.
How about another guy you mentioned in the book? You mentioned Father Lyons. Do you remember that name?
Of course. I mean, when I was just my first year as an altar boy, and he was, the head of a MAC and of the church, and he was scary. He used to scare me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was a strict, by the book,
fire and brimstone preacher.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No bones, no joy. He was the real deal. And he scared me a little bit. So, but he was good. I mean, he was one of another guy that you just remember, you'll never forget. I'm surprised you and Ditto mentioned in the book. I don't remember that. But
he did. He mentioned both of them. He mentioned Father Angelo, and he mentioned Father Lyons, and I guess the funeral for I guess his friend who had gotten killed in the movie and the book that he wrote about. I guess they had the funeral mass at a MAC. So it was very prominent in the movie and also in the book. And I remember him bringing up Father Angelo. I'm like, wow, from Father Angelo. I mean, it was iconic. Like you said, it was a character.
Great.
We brought up another character. I don't know if this is $1 million question. I'm not sure if he's part of GOA or if you even know whatever happened to him. Whatever happened to Pete Rose? Me and Mike asked this question a year and a half ago, and he's like one of those
I don't know if
iconic characters, right?
I don't know if you want to go down that road on this podcast. Well, he was one of those. He was you hit it the nail on the head.
A lot of stories. There's a lot of stories.
Absolutely, and he had he had brothers.
Right.
He had twin brothers. They were always in the bars in Astoria. They just seemed to like melt onto the streets and just slid their way home. But Pete was different. He was a character, and he went to the beat of his own drum.
Right.
I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot of stories about him, as he said.
He's got to be what, in his 60s, maybe 70s,
if he's alive, if he's even alive.
That's the question, Vinny. We want to know where he is. We have put this out there. We have put this out there to so many people, and no one seems to know.
Did you try GOA? Sometimes
I think Chris put up a thing.
Yeah.
One of the questions we put it up on this podcast for people from Astoria. Like, does anyone know whatever happened to him?
Right. Be careful what you wish for. He may be on.
He may pop up.
He might be our next guest. Who knows?
in the Phillies shirt, right, or the red shirt with the rose jersey that he wore. But
right.
Let me ask you a question, Vinny. Where do you see GOA going? I mean, what's your plans for it? I mean, is it just stay the course, or do you have any?
Yes. I don't have. Listen, if somebody, I have somebody that helps me. I have another person that helps me moderate, because there's a lot of people that go on there with not the best intentions, and there's some people that insist on talking about politics and things that I try to keep off the page, because people get into arguments, they get into fights. So I have somebody helping me moderate it, and we have had parties in the past, and we were thinking about going back to a party. But the problem is this: you can never make 20. You said there's 22,000 people now. I figured it was over 20. I don't look at that as much as I used to. It's not necessary. It is what it is for me. And but the parties we would have, you can't make everybody happy. And one group of people wants a band, and another group of people might want a DJ, and yet another group of people just want it to be low key, and another group of people want it to be at a bar, restaurant, or they want to sit down and eat, or they want to do a cruise. So there's always different people and then there's people that don't want to pay, and there's other people that say, yeah, sure, if it's going to be a great party, I'll pay. Let's make it a great party. So you get mixed, and you just can't. No matter, I've learned a long time ago with Growing Up Astoria, you cannot satisfy everybody. So what I did was I had every year a reunion. First it started off at the beer gardens. I did it at the beer gardens.
Bohemian?
And we did it, I'm sorry?
At Bohemian
yes, Bohemian Hall, beer gardens. And I did it there for the first 2 years. And they really didn't, from all I was offering, they really didn't try to work with me to make something special. So after the second year, I actually landed up in Catch.
Okay.
Because I knew some people that were partners in it, and they kind of said, "Look, you want to have?" It was a new place. You're familiar with Catch? It's like off of 30.
Yeah.
And like
my parents are still in there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's under the L. It's right off under the L. So basically, the guys who originally owned it, there's different owners now, but the guys who owned it originally was about 4 or 5 guys, and they were just so happy to have something like that, where they were thinking, this is great. This is a no lose. We have this party. The name gets out, and we host this party for them, and we'll try to do it every year. So it started off great. The first year we had 300-400 people. The second year, 300-400 people, and the third year maybe 200 people. And look, Catch, after a couple of years, they came into their own, and they started charging a lot of money for drinks, and it wasn't as great as it was the first year and the second year. and people were starting complaining. People were complaining about drinks being $14, Manhattan drinks, and you just can't make everybody happy. So so we did that for a few years until it dwindled down, and we had sponsors giving us keychains, giving us different types of things, but eventually, just like anything else, it just, after the 4th or 5th year, it just wasn't. I even tried a few other things. We did a Halloween party, and I tried to do a New Year's, and we did a Christmas party. But I think the most important thing was the page was up, and people were able to enjoy it. And I had no problem with doing something if enough people wanted to. But the most important thing, and still steadfast, is the page is up, and people are actually enjoying it. And there's a lot of people on it, and it's where it is. Going forward, I'm always open for, ideas and possibilities. I don't know. Right now we're especially with today's climate, we have a lot going on in the country. I don't think the last couple of years I would have been able to have any type of party with COVID and all the other things that are happening. 2 years ago we were rioting and hating police. Now we're just doing whatever we're doing this year. But things are starting to get back to normal, and who knows? You might see another GUA party.
What's pretty crazy, Vinny, that I noticed in the group, and I look at it, obviously me and Mike are part of the AMAC group too, and what boggles me is my mom is part of it. My mom's in her early 70s, and my dad's in his his mid 70s, and they're part of it. And I see some of the posts that go on in GOA, and look, a lot of stuff that me and Michael talk about are like stuff that happened in our age bracket, like in the late 80s, the mid 80s, that kind of stuff, early 90s. Sure. But it's funny, like you go onto your site and the group, and you see people posting pictures up of like a story like in the early 30s, or like before like the pool was built, that kind of deal.
Isn't that great though? That's
great? Phenomenal.
I love seeing those old pictures. I could look at those things all day.
And you know what else? And not to cut in on you, I'll let you get back to say, but
no, go ahead.
When people put up the pictures in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and their family pictures in front of their cars, in front of their houses, with their mothers with their beautiful dresses on, the way they dressed. Guys were wearing, beautiful suits and fedoras, and just a different time, a different age. And I agree with you. I think that's phenomenal, and it's great that you get such a wide age group. You get guys like our age, and then you get older folks, and even some of the younger folks here and there. Not so much, but it's great to see like all those different pictures, from different ages, like the 60s, a little bit before our time, and those old pictures of Astoria are phenomenal. I mean, we've hit it over the head a couple times already, but there's really a lot of famous characters, like Christopher Walken, his bakery. I remember Mike's dad talking about how he used to, visit it, when he was growing up, It was on Broadway, and it was supposedly famous, and I understand that he was a professional dancer, and he went to Long Island. I believe he went to Long Island City High School, and he took lessons, and he was quite a dancer.
Yeah, he was like a child actor growing up in the neighborhood. When he won, from what my dad told me, when he won for Deer Hunter, he actually put the Academy Award in the bakery for a while on display.
Oh wow!
Because he basically thanked his parents for everything, for all the sacrifices they made.
Are either of those guys like Tony Bennett or Walken part of the group, Vin?
No. That would be great. Wouldn't it be great? I mean,
that'd be phenomenal, right? I mean, why wouldn't they be? I mean,
I'll even take what's his name? From the Godfather. He's from Sunnyside. What's his name? He's a famous actor. McCann. No. He played Sonny in The Godfather.
Oh, James Caan.
James Caan.
James Caan. I'm sorry, James Caan. Yeah. James Caan is from like Sunnyside, which is like a stone throw. It's right there.
It's right there.
it's connected to a story. So there's a lot of people. Whitey Ford, right? Was from
Whitey Ford.
Yeah, Whitey Ford.
I'm looking at an autograph of him right here, and it's funny. I've told the story in the podcast, Vinny. I actually met Whitey Ford at a card show, and I wanted him to sign his address to Chris from Whitey, and I wanted him to put my address and his address. And first off, he looks at me and he goes, "What are you, Greek? You're from Astoria?" I go, "No, Whitey, I'm Italian." And he goes, "All right." He goes, "What's your address?" He goes, "I'll put your address on it." I go, "So put to Chris, 2265, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, and then underneath it, put your address. And he looks at me. He goes, I guess his daughter was in his ear. And she's like, "Nah, he's not going to do that. He'll put your address there, but he's not going to put his address there." I'm thinking to myself, what do you care? I mean, you don't live there anymore, but he was cool, and he, he's obviously a
Right.
Astoria guy. He passed away a couple of years ago, maybe about 2-3 years ago, but that is another guy. And I guess allegedly, I've heard stories about Cyndi Lauper. Is she from Astoria or is she not from Astoria?
That's news to me. I never heard that, but
Yeah.
possible.
I thought it was going back and forth between Brooklyn and Astoria, but I read a couple of stories where she was actually from Long Island City, Astoria. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there are plenty of people that are famous from Astoria, but I don't think that that Cyndi was one of them. I don't remember. I think you said Brooklyn. I think she was from Brooklyn.
I think so too. But I was just curious. Any plans on like intermingling the site or like maybe linking up with the group, the IMAC group, the Immaculate Conception group?
I do talk to some people that are involved with IMAC, and I opened it for them. And actually, one of my friends is on their board, and he does charities with them. And he asked me a couple times. I said, if I minded if they did some advertising or did something. Absolutely, they're welcome to do something. And if they want to do something in the future, if you mean by a way of party or an event, that's fine. Especially when it comes to something like IMAC. They took a nice turn. They have a different. They're going with a different. I think they're different than they were about 10, 15 years ago. They had a different priest in charge, and he was a little bit different. And I'm trying to be nice, but he wasn't as friendly as the present one. And anyway, they seem to be opening their horizons and trying to be a little more people friendly in today's day. 15 years ago, I forget his name,
Basio?
He
Father
wasn't.
Basio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some issues with him.
Yeah, I think
So-
he passed away, right?
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah.
Sister Jean passed away too last year. We talked about her, and
She was great. Wasn't
yeah.
she great?
a lot of old timers, kind of went by the wayside. But Father Basio, he was good to my family in terms of like when my grandparents passed away. But you do get that other side of him, in terms of like I think he was difficult to deal with on the business end a little bit. But no, I hear you, Vin. I hear you. But
I'll tell you a quick story with Sister Jean.
good.
Sister Jean was the principal, obviously, at for those who don't know, Immaculate Conception. And I was in class, and I was always getting in trouble. So teacher tells me, Vincent, go see Sister Jean right now. Go to her office right now. So I'm like, oh boy, what did I do now? So I walk in the office, you walk in, you're like hesitating. And then she says, sit down, Vincent. And I sat down. I said, and I looked at her, and she said, you live on 28th Street. And I said, yes, I do. And she's like, I need you to do me a favor. And I'm looking at her, and she hands me an envelope and something else. And she says, you're going to go to this address. I mean, we're in the middle of school. I don't know what grade I'm in. Maybe I'm in 5th grade, 6th grade. And then literally a Mac was around the corner. It wasn't like she was sending me 5 miles away. I lived around the corner from a Mac. She said, you're going to go to my mother's house. So apparently her mother lived on my block and was my neighbor. And I rang the bell, and I met her mom, and I handed over, went back, and she's like, did everything go all right? I was like, yeah. And just funny because I thought I was in trouble, and no, I'm just going to meet her mom.
It's hysterical, Vinny. It's funny. My grandfather was a block over on 27 between 23rd and 24th. What are you between Ditmars and 23rd Avenue?
I was
28?
28 between Ditmars and 21st.
Okay, the other way.
That
The other way.
hill? You remember the hill?
Yeah, sure.
I lived at the top of the hill on the right
Okay.
side.
Okay. It's
Yep.
that was an interesting group too in the story. So you got some of the dynamics, Mike and actually one of your fraternity brothers, one of your younger fraternity brothers from Teak comes on, Chris Camacho, and he gives me a little bit of rash of shit about talking about how Astoria was kind of a rough place in certain areas, when we grew up.
Sure
And,
was.
and I listen, all fairness, he's probably right. It wasn't the hood, but there were parts of the story that were pretty rough.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, kind of went block by block in some cases. You're going from a middle class enclave from one part, and then all of a sudden, and kind of got dicey.
You had all different, and remember, going back even further back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, even, you had a nice size amount of gangs in Astoria.
Right.
And you had, the Parkside Gents, the, all different, there's a million of them, but you had, all different gangs for different areas. And you had different parks and people hang out in different areas. You had people hanging out in Steinway Park, and then you had, ShopRite Park, 37th Street Park. You had people hanging out at Astoria Park and by the Hellgate, who hung out by the Triborough and
the Steinway boys, Mike the Russian, and all those guys,
and
right?
Then, people from Jackson Heights, which is really like Astoria Heights, who played for Elm Jack, who played for ICYP,
up back, all those places,
all
right?
that kind of stuff. There was so many different rivals and so many different things who hung out on 21st Street and 20th Avenue. There's a crew in front of the pizzeria there. There was a pizzeria there for many years. There was a lot of different crews. There was a lot going on. Astoria had a lot of things happening, and the summers were great.
So you're living out of state right now, is that correct?
Yes, I live in Florida.
Okay.
I retired from the city, and I'm living in Florida. And so I'm far away from Astoria. I'm far away for now.
No, I hear you, Vin. At least I am. I'm probably leaning in that direction in the next 5 to 10 years, when I get to that point. But, for a myriad of reasons. And it looks like you're having a great time down there. Everybody I speak to has a great time in Florida. And it's funny, my wife gets really irritated. My wife is from Suffolk County. And like when, I've traveled the country. I've been to, from the West Coast to the East Coast, down South. And it's funny, at some point in time, all my travels in all different states, I always come across somebody who's from Astoria or who's heard from Astoria.
Yes.
It drives my wife absolutely insane. You're like,
where's she
why
from?
Is everybody from Astoria? She goes, every actor you said, every famous person, everybody in Timbuktu that we go to visit, all of a sudden they're from Astoria. How the hell do you run into these people? And it's funny, you just do, it's such a wide net that the place casts,
Astoria is such a good, it starts with an A and ends with an A from the top of the alphabet. And listen, it's a great place, and you're absolutely right. Just about a month ago, my postman was out, and the backup guy just seemed like an Astoria guy. He just seemed like a New York guy, Look, there's a lot of New York people in Florida, so it's not a stretch for you
make
to
that
meet somebody.
assumption, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of New Yorkers here. So I was talking to this guy, and he said, and I said to him, I said, "Are you from New York?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm from New York City." And I said, "That's great." And he goes, "I'm from Queens." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I said, "Where are you from in Queens?" He goes, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but I'm from Astoria." I said, "Did I ever hear of it?" Of course I did. I said, "I'm from Astoria." He goes, "Get out of here." So I told him he wasn't a Facebook guy. But I told him about growing up Astoria briefly. I said, "Listen, I put up this page a couple of years ago. I don't ever get into like details." And then people will come back to me like, "That page is unbelievable," or there's 20,000 people on there. So, but I sent them on there, and he came back to me. Oh, I saw him again a short time later, and he said, "Astoria boy." He goes, "I saw your page." He goes, "That's pretty cool." He goes, I'm a member now. And it's just funny. You do run into Astoria people. I've run into Astoria people many different places that I never thought I would. So and it's a great thing. Be proud.
Great.
Appreciate it, Vin. We're running out of time. It looks like. I think Mike's seen the timer
and we
too.
didn't even get to talk about Astoria Park in the '80s with the freestyle. Maybe
I let off the show when you share the show on Monday or Sunday night when Mike posts it. I'll send you the link. And obviously, we hope that you put it in the Facebook page, GOA. I led off the show with Stevie B's Spring Love. And I led off with your comment, and I led off the fact that it's a spring night, it's great weather. And I saw your comment. I actually DJ, my side business. I have a DJ
see that
business.
You do that. Right. Good for you.
So, I do a myriad of different type of music, and I do come across that music very often. Just really depends on the type of crowd that you have. Some people love it, and some people, not so much.
I couldn't imagine being a Story person growing up in the 80s and without having a little freestyle and running. You need to play running.
Information Society. But I definitely let it off with you. I definitely threw your name out there. And
All right,
this whole thing came about because I saw your comment, and it's just funny. It literally takes you back to, when you're growing up back in Astoria, back in that time period, and you hit it right on the head, Vin.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vin. Thank you.
And if you ever find a need, I'd love to join you again. And you invite me back, I'll come on again.
Definitely.
I appreciate it. We'll give you the link so you can post it in the Facebook site, and we'd love to have you back. We'll probably have your fraternity brother Macho on in the next couple of weeks and talk about it. Maybe we patch everybody together. We
Sure,
appreciate
anytime. And it was a pleasure. And keep up the good work. I appreciate it.
All right, Vin. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. With that, we'll do plugs real quick. We got like 2 minutes, and we'll get out of here. All
right, guys. Well, thank you, Vinny, again for coming on. Plugs. I've got www. Chris Clash at www.chrisclash.com. That's me. Me and Vinny were just talking about my DJ business. We got Tommy Devitt's place on 36th Avenue, Astoria guy, Tommy. The Mad Donkey, and 5 Star Shopping by Tommy, 917-559-8264. Got Piazza Pizza in Rye, New York, Eugene's place at 914-921-4444. Celtic Monkey, Mike Power, another Astoria guy in North Carolina. Jay Cristiano, 844-442-7334. Cardinal Financial, extension code 4215. Mike's show's coming up, folks, in a couple of days. Please hit him up. Take it away, Mike.
All right. Yeah. April 30th, Broadway Comedy Club, 6:00. Go to my Instagram page, Mike O'Sullivan Comic, 4 tickets. You get a discount if you buy them off the site. And I'll have other stuff coming up beginning of May. First week, once I get it, just go to my Instagram, Mike O'Sullivan Comic, 4 dates. Also, Jacket I Can Paint, and Pat Dixon at the Crime Report. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, folks.